Hi, you're listening to the Taking Ground podcast, connecting you to the many excellent churches, ministries and people within our wider family. You can keep up to date with the latest from Taking Ground at takingground.org.uk and never miss an episode of this podcast by hitting subscribe. But for now, here's your host, Rachel Broughton.
I'm really privileged to be sat here with Dale Dawson, representing the Community Groceries. Hi, Dale.
Hiya.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So good to have you on. I'm excited to hear all about the Community Groceries, the ministry of it, the way that it works and operates in partnership with churches and particularly some Taking Ground churches as well. So really excited to hear all about that. But before we do that, I want to get to know you. I want to get to know your story, your testimony, your journey to faith, and also then your journey to Hexham Community Church. And I guess that's the beginning of your story before Community Groceries, isn't it? So why don't you give me a little overview of your background?
Okay. So I think I came to faith when I was 12 years old.
Okay.
I was living on quite a rough council estate in Newcastle, and I was sent along to the local Brethren Assembly. At the place, they had a camp which they ran every year, and that was opposite Holy Island, which was great. And I was sent along to that, and I came to faith at that camp.
That's so cool.
So that wasn't quite the end of the story, because the area I lived in was a very rough area, and I was starting to get involved with a lot of petty crime.
Okay.
Ran around with a gang a little bit, and I was probably heading towards 18 years old, and I had an encounter with God, really, in a sense of that I had some people at my church who were looking after me and watching me getting involved more and more with petty crime. Yeah. So that was sort of an area where I wasn't sure how to get out of and what to do, but they helped me through that, which was fantastic at the time. I started getting more and more involved with church then, and that's when my faith really came into being. Yeah. Most of my other friends at the time, they were all put in prison.
Wow.
They all got they were into stealing motorbikes at the time, and they had a sting operation, and they were put in prison, all of them.
So you can look back at that and go, that was my trajectory. Like I can totally see that's where I would have ended up.
Yeah, I would have been in prison.
Wow.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
So it's amazing, isn't it? Like for your experience is that your encounter with God has saved you, and you can totally see exactly what it's saved
absolutely.
you from. Yeah.
I can see that my life is such a different trajectory, if you want to call that, a different way of doing things completely from that moment onwards.
Wow.
Really, I started getting involved with church more. I actually ran the camp that I went to as a kid. I really got involved with the people at the church, the outreach work. We worked with the young people and the children's work at the church.
So you can totally see that your passion to support people, particularly like yourself.
Yes.
You know, you can see exactly why that would be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so you obviously grew in the Brethren Church.
Yep.
And then came to Hexham Community Church. Was that a geographical move? Was that a...
Yes.
Yeah.
So what happened then was I was a residential social worker. I got myself qualified, and I worked with people with learning disabilities in homes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I had my first manager's job in Hexham. Hence we came to Hexham.
You came to Hexham.
And so that was out of the blue. We weren't expecting to come here. So we moved up. Took us about 6 months to find a place we could afford to live.
Yeah, gosh.
Because Hexham's quite an expensive place.
Yeah.
And we moved here. So we were still going to Brethren Assembly in Corbridge, which is just a little village down the road there.
Yeah.
And so we went there for a while, and we realised that God was wanting us to move out of the Brethren. The Brethren have a situation where they don't recognise the Holy Spirit moving at this time.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting thing. I happened to be going past the window of our church where we go now, and the pastor at the time was sitting in the window with his wife having a cup of tea, and I just walked past, walked in and said, "What are you doing?" I felt led to go in and speak to them, and they said, "Oh, we're just opening a church here, and we've been going a few years, and we just said we talk to people in the going past in the street, and you're one of the first ones through the door.
Wow.
So that's how I am, and I felt a very much at home. It was really weird, and it was very much Holy Spirit led, and we started to come, and that took a bit of difficulty getting out of the brethren.
Yeah.
A little bit. It was a bit more our point of view. It wasn't that they were annoyed with us or anything like that. It was just a different transition, a really difficult one. So we moved, and we came here. We've been here 26 years now.
Yeah. And you and Susanna, your wife, are heavily involved in the leadership here at Hexham Community Church as well, aren't you?
So I'm an elder at the church.
Yeah.
We help run a lot of stuff here. Yeah. We're involved with most things that go on. It's great. Yeah. We love being here. We've seen huge changes over the years, and more recently with Neil Strike being here, who's the pastor of the church here now.
Yeah, I've got a conversation with him. If you haven't checked out the podcast episode 2 called Loosening Our Roots, I've got an episode with him which chats all about Hexham Community Church. So there's so much going on. It's really cool to listen to.
Yeah, so we're doing huge amounts of things now. We are God's doing amazing things in Hexham and the outlying areas. It's absolutely amazing at the moment. And
one of the in ministries that you have going on here is Community Groceries, and you head that up not just locally but also regionally. I'm excited to chat to you about that. Tell me a little bit about what is a Community Groceries, because there'll be people listening who have maybe heard the term thrown around, maybe know that there's one in their town or one in a neighbouring town or city, but maybe don't know exactly what it is. So why don't you give me an overview? What is a Community Grocery?
Community Grocery is it was set up by the Message. They are meeting a need of the community. They're in the middle of, if you think about it, for food banks to a normal shop, in a sense. So we fit in the middle there somewhere, probably towards the closer end of the food bank side of things. But we are predominantly trying to get the gospel into people, into areas, but actually being actively working into those areas by getting food which is past its sell-by date or use-by date, and stopping food going into landfill. So predominantly a lot of the food that we get is donated from the supermarkets or anywhere like that. We get huge amounts of food donated. We are meeting the need of the local communities, and all the community groceries are connected to churches.
Amazing. So it's actually logistically and practically it's a bridge, isn't it, between somebody who might go to a food bank struggling to pay for anything and able to get that for free. So but there's almost a step in between that gets missed, isn't there? So you might be in a food bank, but actually the jump from getting that food for free to then going to a normal supermarket and having to do your full weekly shop on such a tight budget and having to manage money or getting out of debt or whatever, that's a huge jump. So Community Groceries is that bridge, isn't it?
It is. It's an interesting one because it gives people dignity in a sense that they're actually paying for something.
Tell me about that. How does that work?
How that works, you become a member. It costs you £5 a year to become a member, and each shop that you do for a basic shop, which is really good value, costs you £4.
Wow. Okay. So and how many shops can you do?
You can do 3 shops a week.
Okay. Wow. So for £12 a week, you can.
For £12 a week, we estimate for one £4 shop, it's about £30 worth of food you get. So you get your basics requirement. You can do that 3 times a week. So that's sort of £90 worth of food for £12.
Wow.
Incredible value. We get fantastic food. Our fruit and veg is fantastic. It's as good as any quality you can find. It's amazing. We have in Hexham particularly, because I can talk about that, we have 2 sets of people who can who see the grocery as a place where they can just about afford food, and they come because they need to come, and and that's fantastic. We also have people who have an eco conscience, and they come because they don't want to see food going to waste. So we have a huge amount of people who come for that reason alone, just because they just don't want to see this food just getting
go into landfill.
Absolutely. So we have at Hexham Grocery, we have approximately 1,200 members.
Wow.
So we're coming up to about a year and a half being open, just a bit longer. and we're seeing people. We're getting busier and busier.
Yeah.
We are starting to see quite a few Ukraine families coming
Ukrainian
in.
families,
They're being recommended by the local authority to come to our shop.
That's amazing.
Which is absolutely amazing. So
Yeah.
we love that.
And particularly as, the cost of living is increasing, has increased dramatically this year particularly. These shops are just incredible because, as you say, people have got dignity. They are coming and they are buying food. And yet they're being incredibly blessed in the process.
Yeah. I think that the best thing is that they have choice. If you go to a food bank, you don't get choice.
No, you don't.
You get a bag of food, and that's what you get.
Yeah.
And at the grocery, you come in, you can choose virtually.
You shop as you would.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we get some wild and wonderful, exciting brands of food and things.
Yeah.
But actually, people come to the shop because they're never sure what's going to be in.
Yeah.
We have staple diet stuff. We have bread and we have fruit and veg and we have all the basics, but we have some wild and exotic things. and we also, on top of that, we provide information about how to cook food, because people don't know how to cook anymore.
Yeah.
And so we have provided various pictures, and we now have a very strong Facebook presence.
Yes.
And we have quite a good following on that, and people now buy food, cook it, take pictures, and actually show it on our website now.
Cool.
So they can share the ideas.
Share the recipes, their own ideas.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And we do that as well.
So how does a community grocer get food? Because you're this shop that is, as you say, using like either stuff that's near or past it's used by or sell by or whatever. What does that look like? How do you get that?
How do we get food? We predominantly we get food donated by, in Hexham particularly, from our supermarkets, so Tesco's and all the major supermarkets, and they've blessed us tremendously. Yeah. So we do very well with that. The local co-op is really helpful for us as well. M&S, we have a lot of shops here, and they're very generous. That's great. Other stuff we buy in at a reduced cost from a company called Fairshare.
Oh, okay.
And they, again, they get their food, which is donated to them by supermarkets, but it's in bulk.
Right, okay.
So we get quite a lot of food from there. Our biggest amount of food comes from them. We also get a little bit of for our food from The Message in Manchester.
Right.
They have a depot there, and they get their food from various sources, and we get that sent out to us on a regular basis.
Yeah, great. And you mentioned The Message a little bit before, and The Message is this kind of missional hub centre in Manchester, isn't it? That's got lots of different ministries, which Taking Ground is a huge partner with.
Yes.
And there's the Eden Project, and there's Community Grocers, there's all sorts of things, and we're going to talk about all of those on the podcast. But particularly today, Community Grocers. So you've mentioned the Community Grocer in Hexham, but that's not the only Community Grocer that you look after. And as we said, you regionally look after all the Community Grocers up in the North East. So how many are there? How many particularly connected to Taking Ground Church?
Okay, we have 5 in the North East.
Okay.
I think, let's have a think, we have 3 involved with Taking Ground.
Wow, okay.
So
where are they?
We have...
Testing you now.
Oh, yeah, no. Middlesbrough is I class it as Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough Community Grocery. We have Ragworth.
Which is in Stockton.
In Stockton. And we have Redcar. And so we also have one in Newcastle and Hexham as well, so that's 5 altogether.
Wow.
There's possibly going to be a couple more coming online in the near future, so we're just waiting to see what happens there.
And Hexham was was the first in the North East?
It was the first one in the North East, yes.
So let's talk about Hexham, because this is the one that you specifically oversee, isn't it? Or run, you manage.
Yes.
Tell me about the impact of the Community Grocer with the people that you've met, that you've encountered, and those, because obviously you're partnering with Hexham Community Church as well in that. So what does that look like? Okay,
so our store is one of the smallest groceries in the empire, if you want to call it that, within The Message, and so that has its advantages and disadvantages. Yeah. We are in a very I wouldn't say a needy area, but we are. We have built up a relationship with the local community over probably 3 or 4 years now.
Wow.
Before the community grocery came to be in, there was an Eden project there, which you will be talking about in due course, with our Eden worker Joe Bezic. So we work very closely with the Eden project. So for us at the community grocery, we have, as I said, over 1,200 members. We have worked with predominantly there's 2 of us or 3 of us who are paid members now of staff, myself, and well, actually 3 other members of staff.
Okay,
but
great.
I've just took some more on. But mainly the people who work at the shop are volunteers.
Great. And where do you get those volunteers?
The volunteers come from mainly all the churches in Hexham, which is amazing.
So good.
So we can have 6 different churches working in the shop together. Absolutely fantastically well. They get on so well.
That's so
We share
lovely.
stuff. Oh, it is. It's amazing. I love it. It's a really generous, warm atmosphere. We get on really well. We pray before we start each day, and we pray for opportunities to share our faith. We pray with people on a regular basis outside of the shop, on the streets, which is amazing. We have had, as part of what we do at the grocery, we have a wraparound care, and part of that is we do courses with people, like back to work courses,
Okay.
and just general things, cooking lessons
Yes,
and
you
courses
said, yeah.
as well, which is one thing we're setting up. We haven't quite managed to do it yet, but we are doing. That's what we're planning to do. We are looking to just get people into doing all those courses.
Yeah.
One of the courses that we do provide is an alpha course.
Yeah.
And so we invite people onto that who, it can be anybody can come on the course. We mention it as part of our membership as we go through our various information we get from people.
Right,
as they
yeah,
join.
when they become a member of the
Yeah.
grocers, you go through kind of what
Yeah.
you've got, and
Yeah.
Alpha is part of that.
Yeah,
Wow.
and most people just say yes. Okay, we'll think about it.
Yeah.
But we've had various people who have come in, said yes to an alpha. We've put 3 alphas on this year, and I think every alpha we've done, we've had people being saved.
That's amazing.
On all of those
So
alphas,
good.
and for us, that's not where it stops. That's the beginning for
Yeah,
us,
of course.
and we want to see people really deepen their faith and understand what their faith is all about. And it's not just about a prayer saying yes and then inviting Jesus into your life. That's the beginning.
Yeah,
And we
yeah.
want to see people really deepen their faith and walk with Jesus.
And that's where your partnership with the church comes in, isn't
Absolutely.
it? Because actually the church then get to, come round these people who are getting saved and who are deciding to give their lives to Jesus,
Yeah.
and begin to disciple and build community with them and all of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the main part of what we do. And
Yeah,
it
so
works
good.
really well. The church is very welcoming to people, and they've had to come used to having different people in church. It's a fantastic problem to have, if you want to call it that. It's just we're seeing the growth in our church really grow. As the amount of people that are coming in, families are coming in. We have also changed how we do church. Neil might have mentioned that.
A few different types of service,
Yes.
but becoming
So
much more inclusive
Yeah.
of the different types of people that are coming into the congregation.
So we have
Yeah.
on a Sunday morning now we have a messy church morning,
So
which
good.
is everybody's invited to, and we're starting to, we are seeing the families from what is the east end of Hexham, where the grocery is, coming in now,
Coming into that,
and
so
they
good.
come on regular, and people are asking about it. In the shop itself, we have a big screen, and we advertise all the different things that we do in all the churches, but mainly our church,
Yeah.
the Hexham Community Church. And people can see that and ask questions, and we have
Yeah,
flyers,
great.
so people are able to understand when things are happening, what's happening, and a lot of people come to church for the first time. They've never been in church. So
Well, I
it's
love
amazing.
actually the fruit of unity, because you were
Yeah.
talking about the different denominations that are
Yeah.
represented in your volunteering teams and whatever. Like, the fruit of unity is, well, more fruit.
Yes, it's tremendous. It
good.
really is good.
It's
have
as
a-
if Jesus said it or something. I don't
Yes,
know.
I know. It's amazing, because we've built up a huge, fantastic relationship with a lot of the church members in all the different denominations and all the
So
different
good.
congregations and fellowships in Hexham, which is a great thing to have. And we aren't precious about these things.
Yeah.
We want to see God's kingdom grow in Hexham, and we are seeing that happening.
That's
And we're not about, we're not directing people to any one place, but
Yeah.
we're happy to see the church grow.
Great. Dale, hit me with some stats. What have you got for me?
Here we go. This is mainly for Hexham Community Grocery. If you can imagine, let's have a think. The best one I can think of, we have worked out what the equivalent meals can be provided by all the shops that have had in the shops.
Okay.
So we can, in the year and a half that we've been going, a bit longer, it's over 600,000 meals
Oh my goodness.
we have provided with the food that's been produced from the Hexham
That's
community.
incredible. That's mind-blowing.
It is, isn't
of
it?
a statistic.
Yes.
And also incredibly sad in some ways.
It is.
That this sort of, I mean, it's an incredible ministry, but also incredibly sad.
Yes.
That 600,000 meals that families would have really struggled to provide otherwise.
Yeah.
Goodness.
So that's just an amazing figure. 3.1 tons of food saved from going into landfill.
Wow.
That's just Hexham. So if you can times that.
I can't quite get over that.
So that's what we do, and we're the smallest shop in the sort of the
North East.
Yes, and probably the whole of the message.
The whole of the message.
Yeah,
Wow.
the Community Groceries.
Oh my goodness.
So if you can times that by 5, all the shops are bigger than Hexham Community Grocery.
Yes, so
and
as
they
a
are,
basic minimum.
Yes. So we've provided that. They are doing exactly the same, if not more.
Gosh.
So it's an amazing
That is
figure.
staggering.
Yeah. So, it's just phenomenal. Those 2 figures alone just blow your mind.
They really do.
And that's been done mainly through volunteers.
Yeah, amazing. So tell me as well about the people that come in.
Okay.
So they come in, they get their food, they might ask some questions, they might receive prayer, they might go on an alpha, and they might end up in church. Cool, that's amazing. You've said to me that some of the people coming to the grocers actually end up volunteering as well and being able to offer what you guys are offering themselves. Tell me about that.
Okay, I'll give you one story. I won't mention the lady's name,
No.
but she came into the Community Grocery. She's an older lady, and she came in and said, "Oh, this is a nice place." And she did a few shops, and after a few weeks, she said, "Can I volunteer here?" And we said, "Well, yes, of course you can."
Wow.
And so she came in, volunteered, and she's a lovely, lovely lady. And she came in, volunteered, and she realised that most of the people who were volunteering there went to a church. And she says, "So what's this church all about then? And who's Jesus?" And she'd never been to church.
Wow.
And so she was interested, and she became more interested. So when we offered other people who were coming into the shop to come on an alpha course, she said, "So what's an alpha course?"
Yeah.
And so we said this. We explained what it was, and she said, "Do you want to go on the alpha course?" And she said, "Yes." And at the end of the alpha course, she came to faith.
Amazing.
Which was absolutely fantastic. Now she's come into faith, and she's joined Hexham Community Church, and she's a full member, and she's loving life. She says she can't imagine how her life's been transformed.
Wow.
She'd recently been widowed.
Yeah.
And she had very few friends. And all of a sudden she says, "I've got an incredibly busy time. I'm loving every minute. I've got loads of friends, and I'm just seeing life differently."
And this is the community of Christ, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And it starts with doing a shop at a community grocers. Wow.
And that's happened time and time again. We've run 3 alphas, and every alpha that we've run, we've had several people coming to faith.
Wow.
And that's changed families as well as individuals.
Yeah.
We're seeing families coming in to the church and just enjoying life.
And it changes the church as well.
Absolutely.
It changes us. And I think these are the things, it's easy to talk about the impact on other people.
Yeah.
But actually the impact on you as you serve, your heart grows, your character's changed, you're discipled in the process. It's just amazing.
It is, absolutely. And it's very humbling to be part of that and seeing what God's doing in the local area. And that's being replicated in all of the different community groceries in the North East. And we are seeing change, growth, transformation. We're seeing families changed. We're seeing lives changed.
That's just so wonderful. And I love as well giving people the opportunity for new purpose and seeing this lady volunteering in the shop, giving her purpose, giving her that, and then being able to become part of a wonderful community that's just going to invest in her and love her and grow her. And that's really wonderful.
Brilliant.
Really wonderful. Dale, thank you so much for telling me all about Community Grocers. I feel massively inspired, and I feel like people listening will get that. If you've got a community grocer in your area, how could people get involved with supporting community grocers?
You can go along, you can become a member. We do a system where we have a pay it forward scheme.
Oh, okay.
So you can, if you have the money, you can pay it forward for somebody to pay for a membership or a shop.
Okay.
So that's quite a reasonable thing to do if you can do that. They can come and volunteer, which we've had lots of volunteers from all the churches in all the community groceries in the North East, which is great. They can donate food, they can bring food in and stuff like that, which is really helpful.
Oh, fantastic.
We've had such an impact on the local community. The local councillor comes in regular.
Cool.
She's got us funds for the shop before, which is tremendous. The local community, the shops in the town have all come together and they donate lots of food.
So businesses could support as well.
Yes,
Anyone could get involved with supporting
yeah,
this. This is an absolutely fantastic initiative. Dale, thank you so much. At the end of each podcast, I invite each of my guests to share a worship song that might be on their heart or speaking to them in a fresh way. Dale, do you have something for me?
Yes, I do. I have a song by Maverick City, and it's called Firm Foundation. I've been singing it probably for the last 6 or 7 months. I heard it first at one of our prayer days at the Message in Manchester. I love it. One of the main lines that comes out of it is that it says that God's a faithful God and he won't fail.
Wow.
He never fails.
Yeah.
And that just inspires me to keep going, really.
Amazing. Dale, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing the story of Community Grocers, and we'll be praying for you and blessing you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this conversation. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. If you've got a story to tell, get in touch with us. We'd love to hear it. You can contact us at podcast@takingground.org.uk. See you next time.